All right, I'd like to call to order the Shelburne Development Review Meeting of October 16th, 2019. I'd like to open up for public comment on anything that is not on the agenda. Not seeing any. Very good. I'd like to remind people if they're going to be presenting opinions, material, applications to sign in, so we have you on record. I'd like to know if there's any conflict of interest if any of the agenda items that are planned to be discussed tonight.
Nope. I'll be recusing myself from item 7.
Item 7, no mark. All right. Ask the public if there's any concerns with any other recusals not happening on the board tonight. Okay. Seeing none, very good. All right. First order of business is approval of the minutes from October 2nd.
I would make a motion to accept them as written.
Hang on. Let's see if we're all good. We're all good?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Is that 4?
I wasn't there.
I know. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're good. Okay. Just checking. I was silent because I wasn't here and I saw most of the video, but I didn't feel like I could qualify.
And
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
Okay. All right. First application up tonight is DR 19-14. This is to be continued. Is that correct, Ravi?
Yes.
Okay. And that is the application from David Ressler for design review replacing existing front and rear decks. Property of 221. All right. Do they have a date on when that's going to be continued to?
Listed here is November 6th.
16th. There it is.
Make a motion to move this application, DR 19-14, to the November 6th, 2019 agenda.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next application, SUB 19-03 is also to be continued. This is an application by Civil Engineering and Associates on behalf of Laurie and Mark Kotorman for sketch plan review, property at 1 Nashville Road. Do we have a date on when that's going to be continued to?
4.
Yeah, December 4th.
12/4.
I would make a motion to move application SUB 1903 to the December 4th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes. All right, next application is SP 17-02, R2, and DR 19-17. Applications by Brian Precourt on behalf of St. Catherine's of Siena Parish for site plan review, design review to install high-impact lighting. Property is located at 92 Church Street, located in the Village Center District, the Village Design Review Overlay District, Village Core Overlay District, and the Stormwater Overlay District. So, Ravi, I also noticed that there are some other memorandums attached to our agenda tonight. So you want to kick us off and get us started?
Yeah, so this is a proposal to amend a previously approved site plan. The applicant initially proposed to add 7 LED pole lights. The Historic Preservation and Design Review Commission reviewed and approved that portion of the application during their September 26, 2019 meeting. The applicant is also requesting approval for the addition of 7 stormwater catch basins, as well as an amendment to the location of the utility lines. Staff discovered that the applicant had begun work on an unpermitted stormwater management system. They started installing catch basins prior to approval. So this is in a way to correct that approval. The Historic Preservation and Design Review Commission has not reviewed that portion of the application, as staff discovered this after the September 26, 2019 Historic Preservation and Design Review Commission meeting.
Okay.
Along with this, enclosed after the staff report was issued are a memorandum from the Water Quality Superintendent Chris Robinson regarding the stormwater management proposal that's enclosed, along with comments from City of South Burlington Assistant Stormwater Superintendent Dave Wheeler. So regarding the lighting that the applicant has proposed.
Hang on. So,
Okay.
just a comment for the record. So the reason why South Burlington participates or offered opinion is because,
So for all applications that require stormwater review, we seek review from City of South Burlington. It's just standard procedure by by our wastewater and stormwater department.
Okay.
Chris Robinson provides some analysis, but for more thorough analysis, we do contract City of South Burlington's services for that.
Okay.
I'd also observed that the comment in South Burlington is just about verbatim, substantively identical to comment 2B in Chris Robinson's report, so it doesn't raise a new issue or take a different position.
No.
They're saying the exact same thing with respect to 1900.4.
From my understanding of the plain text, yes.
I have a question for you. In your comments, you'd recommended to continue this hearing?
Yes, that was because I had not received analysis from Chris Robinson prior to the packets going out. This memorandum was provided to me on Tuesday and therefore was forwarded to you on Tuesday.
So that is, so your recommendation was based on Historic Preservation Design Review Commission reviewing this, so
So,
that's this letter from Chris Robbins?
so Chris Robinson's letter, it's in regard to a portion of this application regarding the stormwater management systems that have partially been installed. My staff's current recommendation right now is to continue this meeting until the comments have been addressed in the applicant's proposal.
In that regard, Robbie, could you confirm if you know what the status is of the stop work order issued Wednesday, October 9th? Is that still in effect?
From my understanding, yes, it is.
So does that mean there's nothing to do tonight?
Well, I think that since the applicant is here, the applicant can present additional information if necessary, because the same memorandums were provided to the applicant on Tuesday when I forwarded them to you. So they may provide additional information for the record. You may also further question the applicant on the application materials as well to get further clarification.
I guess I'll just, for everyone's purposes, comment though that even if the applicant hadn't answered all the issues raised in Chris Robinson's report, I would want his comments on that input. So I don't think it would change my inclination to continue the matter, but I'll happily listen to the applicant before we proceed further.
Okay. So let's keep going and get the stormwater thing addressed, then we'll talk about lighting. Okay, so we have a stop work order, correct?
Yes.
Okay, have there been plans that have been accepted or still under review that correct the design, or are they still being assessed?
No new plans have been submitted since these plans were submitted to me let's see, when were the plans submitted to me? On October 4th.
October 4th, okay, so the plans that were submitted October 4th, do they look like they address the concern?
No, those are the plans that
Those
have
are the
been
plans that are based
reviewed
on-
by.
They're the subject of Chris's
All right.
memo identifying
All
the deficiencies.
All right. So they have to go back and figure out what they want to do, then submit it back in for us for review by,
That would be staff's
Water.
recommendation, yes.
yeah, okay. And it'll be both Chris and South Burlington looking at those plans,
Yes.
okay. All right.
So if we're going to continue the matter for those purposes, I'm not sure I see a lot of value in addressing the lights.
Well, we can get that done,
Okay.
and then, because you're here for that, to talk to that, correct?
I'd like to talk about it all.
Okay, well, are we done talking about it?
Okay.
Okay, would someone like to
So
speak,
far.
would someone like to speak to this? All right, could you state your name?
My name's Ben Heat.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. All right, floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight because Brian Precourt, he's on vacation. He's been gone for the past couple weeks out of the country, and he has asked that I represent the project this evening. Now, as you folks are aware, Mr. Precourt has been working on the permitting process through the town of Shelburne for this project since its inception. It's been around since 2017. He's filed all the applications and presented at the DRB hearings. And so he's asked me tonight to be here. Now, in the past couple of weeks, as Ravi has noted, there's been a lot of commotion in regards to this project, and unfortunately, Mr. Precourt wasn't here to work on that or to be present for that, and that's unfortunate. But he's asked me to go through all of the records, all of the approvals, all of the applications, to go through all of the decisions that were made and try to unravel what happened. How did we get to where we are? Mr. Precourt felt like he was doing everything above board and as he was approved to do. And so in light of that, I have gone through those efforts. I've watched all the videos of the DRB hearings, I've reviewed the applications, and I've put together a quick presentation here to try to help you folks see how this project has progressed and what decisions have already been made that are in regards to these issues regarding stormwater.
Very good.
So this is the project that was presented to the DRB. This is the plan that was presented, and it's just to orientate everybody here. This is Falls Road. This is Church Street. And the main goal of the project here was to create an expansion to the existing church at St. Catherine's, Siena, and to create some additional parking and a circulation access drive. So since its inception, the goal of this project has been to increase the impervious surfaces associated with this parcel and to change the amount of, essentially, the amount of stormwater that's generated because of the increase in impervious surfaces. So, and as I'm going through this tonight, I want you folks to keep a concept in mind while I'm explaining the history behind this. Impervious surfaces such as driveways, roads, roofs, those are the generators of stormwater, and those increases in those areas are what trigger permitting and review through the town and through the state. Catch basins and stormwater pipe do not generate stormwater and are not triggers for water quality review through the town or the state. So the main goal of this project since its inception was to create additional impervious surfaces which inherently create stormwater. So in late 2018, Mr. Precourt submitted a general application form, a conditional use review application, and a site plan review application for the expansion of the church, which included all of the impervious surfaces that we just looked at. And as part of that process, he did submit a site plan review application document that showed conformance with basic criteria. And on the second page of that document, there is some language here that he provided to the town, which I'd like to just read real quick. So the question here says, describe or summarize and attach any evidence indicating proposed construction erosion and sediment control and post-construction stormwater management facilities will be adequate, e.g. meet the technical specifications of current rules and regulations put forth by the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. His response to that was, the proposed project will involve 3,500 square feet of new impervious surface, therefore it will not trigger stormwater treatment as per Article 5 of the zoning, the Shelburne zoning regulations. The amount is less than the 5,000 square foot trigger from the state regulations, so it will not require a state permit. The stormwater will exit the site into the town catch basin located on Falls Road. So that's a very important piece of this. He's indicated that there's going to be stormwater generated, there's going to be an increase in impervious surfaces which create stormwater, and that stormwater is going to be directed to the town stormwater system on Falls Road into an existing catch basin. Below that, it asks to describe or summarize any evidence that the project design will minimize the amount of stormwater. He references above, and then in the next question he references above. But then below, in this general area here of the application document, it says, describe or summarize and attach any evidence indicating that where stormwater from the development is to be discharged into a municipal stormwater system, public ditches, storm drains, etc., the proposed stormwater management facilities shall be located on easements to be granted to the town of Shelburne. And again, he indicates here the stormwater is being discharged to an existing catch basin located on Falls Road. So after this these documents were submitted, the town planning staff developed this staff report dated January 16, 2019. And on the second page of that, there is a review and a discussion regarding Stormwater Impaired Watershed Overlay District. And I know that you folks have read this a number of times, but what this is a discussion about how the town has a desire to protect water quality in watersheds where surface waters have been identified as being impaired, and that new development projects and redevelopment projects, including those involving construction, alteration, or improvement exceeding 10,000 square feet, may be subject to additional stormwater permit requirements. And so the applicant responds to this by stating, the staff indicates here that the applicant puts forth that they will be adding 5,500 square feet of new impervious surface. Staff finds this to be less than the required 10,000 square feet and therefore would not require documentation about their exemption or adherence to state stormwater regulations. So the applicant has submitted information indicating they're going to increase impervious surfaces, which is going to create stormwater, which is going to go to the town's municipal system. Staff identifies that this is the overlay district and provides direction to the applicant that there's no more documentation required in order to show that they don't meet any state exemptions. So then on the following page, there's some language here that staff has provided regarding additional review criteria that the DRB must apply when reviewing conditional use applications. The DRB must determine if the proposal will, D, not place an unreasonable burden on the town's ability to provide services, including but not limited to, and that list includes the public works services. So staff has recognized that there's a responsibility of the town to review the application materials and the project to determine if there's going to be an undue impact to public service infrastructure. And so inherently, if the project is approved, which this project was, staff is indicating that there is no undue adverse impact. Below that, staff finds that the applicant's proposal would not create an undue adverse impact on town services. So this same night that the staff report was generated for, we have the Development Review Board meeting minutes on February 6, 2019. It was a relatively short meeting. There was no additional staff comments that were entered. The applicant didn't provide any additional information. There were no concerns prepared by any of the staff members at the town of Shelburne. And after deliberation, there was a motion to finalize and close the hearing, and the project was approved. The next document is the findings of facts and notice of decision. In this document, there are a number of findings and conditions. Yep, I can go back. This is the January 16, 2019 meeting date and February 6, 2019. So in this document, there's some things that are important to understand in terms of what's been reviewed and what's already been approved. Here at the bottom, in findings number 20, it states, Article 4 delineates the purpose of the Stormwater Impaired Watershed Overlay District. As stated in Section 500, the purpose of the Stormwater Impaired Watershed Overlay District is to protect water quality in watersheds where surface waters have been identified as being impaired due to water quality impacts from stormwater. And so this essentially just repeats what was put in the staff report regarding the town has a responsibility to review projects for stormwater when you're going to generate stormwater as an applicant, and if the staff must provide evidence that there is an undue adverse impact in order to deny an application. And in this case, the application was approved. And yes. Oops, that's probably too much. Is that better? In item number 21 here, the applicant puts forth that they will be adding 5,500 square feet of new impervious. So again, impervious surfaces create stormwater. The applicant provided the amount of square footage of impervious surfaces that were proposed for the project in the application. Staff recognizes it, DRB recognizes it, it's in the decision. I need to zoom out here to find. Okay. In number 35 here, this section is additional review criteria the DRB must apply when reviewing conditional use applications. The DRB must determine if the proposal will not place an undue or an unreasonable burden on the town's ability to provide services, including public works. So again, the town recognizes that it's their responsibility to look at how the project will impact public works infrastructure, including stormwater infrastructure and water quality, And if there's no unreasonable burden to the town's ability to provide those services, the project gets approved.
The point is that we're supposed to make that decision.
No, I'm just reading these,
Well, no, but it says the DRB will.
correct.
Okay, so I mean, it rests here.
So my goal tonight is to, like I said, I was asked to kind of unravel what had happened and what's been done so far, and I'm trying to outline for you folks specifically the matter at hand of there's been a stop work regarding stormwater. Okay.
Great job.
Did
Good.
you, are we looking at original plans? The ones dated, trying to read the date, it's too small.
I would be happy to go through the history of the plans too. I know there's been a lot of them, and I have that
No,
information.
I'm just
up
trying
here.
to figure out, there's one that shows 2 catch basins.
Yep.
And I'm trying to figure out if that was the one we approved or if that's come along later. Oh, July 2019, okay, I got it. So, that's after we approved it though, right?
Yes.
So,
No engineering plans were provided with the original application. The plans that were provided for your review for the January 16th and February meetings were architectural plans.
And I'm going to continue to hit on these points. I think if I kept going, you guys would, I'd probably answer most of these questions. So I want to point out section 37, or item 37. This section of the zoning bylaws puts forth review standards the DRB must apply in its review of site plan applications. The standards include the following, and I highlight F: the adequacy of proposed construction, erosion and sediment control, and post-construction stormwater management facilities. That's key, because most of the comments relate to that. And again, there's been no change since the inception of this project to now in how much impervious surfaces are being created by this project. The applicant was very clear about that, and if there was some huge change in that post-construction, then I would understand why we're here, but there hasn't been. Here in the conclusions, I outline a few items that are of interest here. Number one, the DRB finds that the applicant's request would be in compliance with the town's comprehensive plan and the town zoning bylaws specifically, and it lists the articles, as long as the applicant develops with respect to the conditions specified below. Number two, regarding Article 5, the DRB concludes that the applicant's project is within the threshold and the applicant will not need to submit documentation about their exemption or adherence to state stormwater regulations. And then lastly, this touches upon the historical preservation design review comment that was, or suggestion from staff about tonight's presentation. In the original approval process, the applicant met with the HPDRC and reviewed this project, and they started off by talking about the site and the traffic, and the committee just plainly said, look, we're really only interested in the building. Let's talk about the building. And so at that time, all of the attention went to the building, and the only condition that they had was that there was some kind of photographic documentation that was made of the existing building, and they had some condition regarding that. And so I'm going to fast forward a little bit in regards to the suggestion by staff to have this project go back to these folks to look at stormwater. It's our opinion, and it's the applicant's opinion, that they don't have an interest in that. They cared about the building on this project site. So inevitably, as we all know, this project was approved under all the conditions that we just noted. And so now we're going to fast forward. So the project's approved. Mr. Precourt believes he's should be building the project as he has shown in the plans. The hearing closed on February 6, 2019, so it's somewhere on February 6.
it would have been the same night, okay.
So the applicant at this time feels like he's provided all of the information to the town regarding stormwater. He makes it very clear that all of the stormwater is going to go to the catch basin on Falls Road. Now, the existing stormwater system is important to understand on this site. There was essentially a couple catch basins on site that directed the stormwater to this existing catch basin on Falls Road. So from a practical point of view, the applicant thought, well, I'm going to make some changes to the grading here, and I'm going to change the drainage pattern a little bit, but not really. Generally, I'm going to send all the stormwater to the catch basin on Falls Road. Was there a little bit of information left to be desired about how he was going to do that? Yes, admittedly. but also the town didn't inquire about how he was going to accomplish that. There was no questions from stormwater staff or the DRB about that. So I think it's unfortunate that that happened that way, because then we wouldn't be here now, but that's the way it all unfolded, and so I'm just trying to describe to you the way this all happened. So fast forward to now, Mr. Precourt has decided that he wants to make a very small change to the project design. He wants to add some outdoor lighting, and so he submits an application to the town, a site plan review application for lighting. And I think it's really important to note that this application included only lighting. So in this information here that he provides, the project that he's asking the town to review is the installation of 7 LED pole lights. Now, the staff's report indicates that the applicant is seeking approval for 7 catch basins. He's not asking for that approval. He's already received that approval, and he believes he has received that approval. So in nowhere in any of the application materials does the applicant say, I'm seeking approval for new catch basins and for additional piping involved with the drainage, because the applicant truly believes and still believes that he has approval for that already.
You don't need to show it, but do you recall offhand the date of this application?
So this application was provided to us in early to mid-September for review. In the plans that were enclosed to us, they included the 7 lights along with all the catch basins. The plans are enclosed in your packets as well.
We will definitely look at those plans together in a minute. We're getting close.
So I don't mean to jump ahead, but, and either of you can answer that. When you said the plans included all the catch basins, meaning catch basins that weren't shown in prior plans?
Yeah, the catch basins that weren't shown in prior plans, yes.
Was there any water flow design in any of the other plans?
No. Prior to this, no.
Okay.
Just to hit on that, the only information that was provided to the town was that all stormwater generated by this project site was going to be discharged to the catch basin on Falls Road owned by the town. That's the only information that was provided, and that was accepted by the town. So this is the staff report that was generated for tonight's meeting, and I just wanted to point out, again, that the applicant is not requesting approval for the addition of 7 stormwater catch basins, as well as an amendment to the location of utilities. They're seeking an amendment for new lighting only.
So just to jump in to clarify the issue, because it may impact what you're going to say next. What's your position on the additional catch basins, so that you had the right to do them on your own without town involvement, that the town should have approved them? Tell me what's your position on the catch basins not shown in the original plan that were shown in the subsequent one?
Well, I'm definitely getting there. I'd like to just keep going on this path so that I
don't
can.
mean to take you out of order.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And I'm definitely going to hit on that. So this is the plan that is one of the plans that was submitted that that you folks have in front of you. It's the revised lighting plan. And if I zoom in a little more here to get everybody oriented, Falls Road here. Excuse me. Oh, I hit the wrong button there. Falls Road here. And as you can see, we've got a lighting plan here that shows lighting foot candle values, proving to the town that it meets the town's lighting regulations. But this plan also shows how he was going to accomplish the drainage pattern that he had indicated in his application. Now, as I reviewed all of this, I maintained this idea that okay, he told the town that he was going to send all drainage to Falls Road. The existing drainage pattern is catch basins and pipe that direct stormwater to Falls Road catch basin. So there's no real change in the scope of how stormwater is being handled in this project. We're just making interior drainage improvements to help deal with puddling and things of that nature and grading on the site. Now, Mr. Precourt did put catch basins out in the right of way. And from my understanding of all the things that have happened here, a town highway right-of-way excavation application was submitted to the town, and it didn't include anything about those catch basins. So in my opinion, that's where the fault lies by the applicant, is that those catch basins should have been provided in the application for that. Yes. The right-of-way is located generally here. And so this catch basin here and this catch basin here are new catch basins that are in the right-of-way and that were not included in the excavation right-of-way permit. Now, he did go out to the site with Paul Goodrich because he thought that that's what he had to do, and he discussed those catch basins with him, and to the best of Mr. Precourt's knowledge, he thought he was doing everything right and that he had met with the right people, and so he kept moving forward with the project. This is the catch basin here at the bottom.
I don't know who
Paul
it is.
Goodrich is the highway superintendent for the town.
Okay, thank you.
This is the catch basin on Falls Road that all of the existing stormwater drained to and all of the new stormwater associated with this project drains to now. That structure was in disrepair. That was replaced as part of these improvements that were made. And so I'd like to just skip forward here to, this is the excavation road right-of-way excavation permit application. And down here at the bottom, you'll note Mr. Precourt indicates what this application is for, and nowhere in here does it say anything about the catch basins. He's got demolished existing Paris Hall, new electrical services, install parking and sidewalk, but nothing about catch basins. So it's our opinion, based on our review of this, being disconnected from it completely in terms of the permitting process and reviewing all the meeting minutes, that all the infrastructure that was installed on private property was done so properly and was done with approval from the town. The infrastructure in the right-of-way should have been approved, and it wasn't. And I've discussed this with Mr. Precourt, and he feels sorry that this happened this way, and he's willing to remove those catch basins out of the right-of-way if that's what the town desires. I think as an engineer, it's a benefit to the town to have those there. It's improving the drainage in your road, and he's paying for it. But if you want those removed, he's more than willing to do that.
Can you clarify the comment you made a couple of minutes ago? I may have misunderstood it. I think I heard you say that the catch basin where all the water continues to drain to was improved as part of the project?
Correct. So that existing catch basin wasn't really a catch basin. It was a metal pipe that had been placed vertically in the ground and holes had been cut in it to allow pipes to be installed into the structure. It was a mess. We didn't need that structure to be improved as part of this process. We could have drained water to it with or without those improvements, but I recommended to him that he make those improvements because it was the right thing to do. So he did. He put in, it's my understanding, I think that structure's already been replaced. So as you folks know, there's already been work that's been conducted in the right-of-way without the approvals that are necessary. There's been a stop work order. There hasn't been any work there since, to the best of my knowledge. And we understand why the town would want a stop work order in the right-of-way because there hasn't been an approval for that. But we don't believe there should be a stop work order in the private property. And again, I want to touch upon a couple things. Now, there was a lot of comments. So since the stop work order, we've received comments from the water quality superintendent and from South Burlington, and all of these comments relate to stormwater treatment for impervious surfaces. Well, all of those approvals have already been made. The town's already approved all of the stormwater associated with this project. Just because the applicant is adding catch basins, it doesn't have any bearing on stormwater for the project. He's just changing the way he's conveying stormwater within his own property, on private property. Those catch basins and pipe will not be turned over to the town, and because of that, those infrastructures do not need to meet the public works specifications. A vast majority of the comments we received from the water quality superintendent was that the project, the stormwater project, or the stormwater associated with the project, or the infrastructure doesn't meet the town's public works specs. Well, I want to turn you to the very first sentence of the public works specifications. It states, these specifications are applicable to all projects which are constructed within the town right-of-way or those projects where the infrastructure will be turned over to the town as public facilities. These specifications do not apply to projects occurring on private property where the infrastructure will not become part of the town infrastructure. So all of the catch basins on private property meet the public works specs because of these first two sentences, because they're not being turned over to the town and that they're not going to be town infrastructures. They're going to be privately owned. So any comment that you receive stating that the project doesn't meet the public works specifications, in our opinion, is false and incorrect. We're not turning this over to the town. Now, the 2 catch basins in the right-of-way or the 3 catch basins in the right-of-way, we fully agree that those should meet the public works specifications and those should have been approved through the town appropriately. They weren't. The applicant is more than willing to take those 2 catch basins out to alleviate this issue.
While we're on that leg of the discussion though, let's bifurcate the conversation the way you just did. Let's put aside the catch basins and the private property. Let's just talk about the 2, 3, if you include the one on Falls Road, that are within the right-of-way. As I understand the comments that you began with at the beginning of your presentation, it's your understanding that an increase in impervious surface in the order of magnitude of 5 or so thousand square feet is not subject to the additional requirements in any event, is it?
That is correct.
And so my question for the two of you is, as I read the water superintendent's memo, even if we just forget about all the catch basins on private property and we limit the scope to the 3 that we're discussing now, he doesn't mention the square footage. Is the town staff's view that because of the square footage, even with respect to the catch basins in the right of way, that this isn't a covered project?
So this is, let's see. Yeah. I think that some clarification is necessary on whether it's a covered project or not. That would require. Okay, sure.
I've got a few more statements and I'm just about done.
If you could, please.
Yeah. So.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Okay.
So essentially here in closing, I would like to strongly recommend that a member of the board tonight make a motion to approve this project as is. All we're talking about here for an approval is lighting. All of this discussion about stormwater and comments received about stormwater is moot. It's already all been approved. You can't go back and add comments after the review period of a project has been concluded. And we also strongly recommend that the staff limit their stop work order to the work that's in the right-of-way and have it not include work that's in the private lands.
Well, it seems to me those arguments are slightly inconsistent. If we accept your first argument, then there is no stop work order no matter where the catch basins are. So it seems to me that those are alternative arguments, not...
Well, it's my understanding that the DRB has the ability to approve the project, but staff is responsible for dealing with the stop work order. So there's 2 different entities, to my understanding, that have jurisdiction here. We have the stop work order, which is staff, and then we have the approvals at hand tonight, which is the DRB. So that's why I keep them separate in my mind.
Sure, I get that.
But I guess, just to jump back to where I was earlier, the reason that I'm focused on the issue you raised first, which was the 5,000 square feet, I'm just using that as a round number. If it's true, hypothetically, that because of the square footage of the impervious surface, that this wouldn't have come under the regulations anyway, then the issue seems to me to be academic. And on the other hand, if as implied by the water superintendent, if we approved it for 5,000 square feet, we did so in error, then that kind of leads me in a different direction. But I'm asking you to comment on that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Sure.
I guess what I'm hearing is that, what I'm hearing here is your testimony is telling me that everything that the applicant has done on the private property has been within the approved scope of the project
That is correct.
by the DRB.
If the applicant had gone out and increased his impervious surface on the site significantly, then I would totally understand why we're having this conversation.
As
But that's
would I.
not what happened.
Right.
So the only point that is in contention, from what I'm hearing, are the catch basins that are not within his property, but within public way, which is under the jurisdiction of
It's my opinion that that's really the only thing to be talking about here, but the comments we received from the water quality superintendent are in response to the entire project.
Yeah,
I
and I don't
think
have an issue with that, because they seem to be in
staff-
conflict with what we already approved.
So staff needs to correct some things. So firstly,
Let me, hey, I know,
Okay.
I know. Do you have any more?
That's it.
All right,
okay,
thank you.
thank you. So firstly, the plans that were provided to you and staff back in December were architectural plans. No catch basins were included in those plans. It was from staff's understanding that because they were minimizing minimized by site design, that they were like relieving the stormwater by natural site design without the addition of catch basins, that this project was in compliance. However, upon looking at the addition of catch basins in the plan, along with the actual installation of catch basins, it had come under staff's purview that this project may need to go under additional review under section 1900.4. One aspect that the water quality superintendent highlighted in the memo is irrespective of the size of the area of disturbance, the amount of stormwater and other surface waters leaving the project site shall be minimized by the site design. It is of the water quality superintendent's opinion that, and also of Dave Wheeler's opinion, that the addition of catch basins does not minimize. It's not the best way to design a stormwater system. That is essentially what I'm trying to say.
I need
That-
to
yes.
hold, because I'm now getting confused.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask for a naming convention. Can we have, because it gets confusing, because
Yeah.
we're using catch basin broadly now? Everything you just said, is that the catch basin on the private property?
It's everything.
Or is it the three on the right of way?
Everything.
Everything meaning what?
Everything. The three in the right of way and also on the private property as
Can
well.
Can I ask a basic question on permit? When a building permit is issued, is the site design included in the permit?
It should be. Some permits
And
include
a
them, some
permit
permits not.
has a fee attached. Is the fee based on cost of construction?
No, fee is based on square footage.
Okay. So if I file for a building permit at my house and I put a catch basin in, is that considered, and I only was going to put an addition on the house, but I decided to put a catch basin in anyway. Even if it's on private property, is that, I don't understand how you can get a building permit, construction permit, without listing all of the activities that are going to take place on the site.
Okay. So in your hypothetical case, that would not trigger section 1900.4. Section 1900.4 applies to site plan review. So in your particular case, from my understanding of the regulations in effect, that if you do not trigger Article 5, then you're in compliance. However, in the applicant's case, it triggers section 1900.4, which specifically states that irrespective of the size of the area of disturbance, the amount of stormwater and other surface waters leaving the project site shall be minimized by site design, which gives purview for the
Can I jump back to Tappas?
Sure.
Yes. I just want to make sure I understand something factually. So
Okay.
this isn't an argumentative statement. I'm just
Yeah.
reciting what I think I heard you say, and I want to make sure I understood it correctly.
Okay.
The plans as submitted to the staff before our approval showed no catch basins
That is correct.
anywhere, on private
Anywhere.
property, anywhere. So our approval was based on those plans, and your report to us for that purposes of that meeting was based on those plans showing no catch basins.
That is correct.
I have a couple things to speak to here. So, can you please repeat the comment, irrespective of size and design?
Yep. So that's section 1900.4. Irrespective of the size of the area of disturbance, the amount of stormwater and other surface waters leaving the
That's
project.
perfect. That's plenty. So that's exactly the kind of comment that we would expect from a regulatory body during the review process for the big site, for a site design. These are the kind of comments that probably should have happened during the approval process, but they did not happen, and the project was approved.
If you go back to like. one of
Without
your
any
first-
showing of catch basins.
The catch basins don't generate stormwater, and the site design is in comment to
Well,
the impervious surfaces and the development of stormwater
Can I,
infrastructure.
can I comment on that? A natural stormwater design would include grassy areas that would absorb water on its way to the stormwater system. And that is what we were looking at when that was brought forth is everything was going to go to a grassy area and would be flowing around. What do you mean, no? You got a building in the middle of it, it'd have to go, you wouldn't have it flow into the building, so it's got to flow to the outside. And then it would flow around the building to the catch basin.
So
That's
hold
a
on.
standard procedure without catch basins.
So what?
There was
does
an existing
anybody
catch basin.
have what was approved, and can we look at that? Because I mean, wouldn't that solve this instead of theorizing about what was
I'm
done?
trying to go back to one of your very first red line boxes where basically staff commented that no stormwater would be reviewed. So if irrespectively, we needed to see how stormwater is going to be minimized, why was that not addressed during the review? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, that raises the question.
So I
was
can't- I
asking,
can't
Is
sit-
the 5,000 square foot number the threshold? Because if, no, I'm sorry, the
10,000.
10,000 as I recall. If 5,000 is under the threshold, then the report was correct. There should have been no stormwater review, and we're kind of wasting our time. But no one's, I'm trying to get the staff's view on what the square footage number has to do with the outcome here, if anything.
In this case, because it triggers section 1900.4, the square footage doesn't matter. It's irrespective of the size of the area of disturbance.
Why wasn't that brought up at the time that we were reviewing it?
Why wasn't that piece
Yeah.
also part of the review? Because as a DRB member, I don't have time to really get in-depth review of all the regulations we're looking to staff to put that in front of us. So we certainly didn't have that in front of us to contemplate. And I think we need to have that to make good judgment. And without that, that's missing testimony on your part.
But it wasn't discussed because it wasn't applied for, correct?
The applicant provided information regarding things that trigger stormwater, which is the square footage of impervious surface, and then where the stormwater is going to drain to, which was the town's stormwater infrastructure.
But the additional 2 drains were not discussed because they weren't applied for.
There's 7.
Total.
Well, but
Right.
if we ignore the ones in the private property, 3, the catch basin to which all the water was and is still going to, and the 2 new ones that were
Right.
put in the right of way weren't part of the application, but none of the catch basins were part of the application because the application as at the date of the hearing didn't show anything on drainage.
But it wasn't
I think
required.
you raise a good point, though, that if the regulations say without regard to the area of disturbance that it has to be addressed.
It has to be in front of us.
Then it sounds like maybe we missed the ball on that.
That's my interpretation.
Here we have a case where we issued a decision, and had we gone back, we would have queried differently into the plans and maybe scrutinized the stormwater runoff, how that was going to be managed, or impervious surface water runoff. That wasn't done, now here we are.
Right. And now we're looking at
Yeah,
the
now
word
we're-
called minimized. Well, how do you define that?
And please remember, the project is in mid-construction at
I
this
know.
time. And it's, and winter's coming, the paving plants are gonna close, we have a church that we're trying to improve for the community, and we have an approval to do that. All we really should be talking about here is the catch basins in the right of way, and Mr. Precor is more than willing to fix that for you folks.
So with the stop water, what has already been done with those 3 catch basins?
To the best of my knowledge, they're there, and I don't know what state they're in, but I know that the moment they were told to stop by the water quality superintendent, they did.
I'm really sensitive to the timing and the urge to get on if you legally can. The process concern I have is that Ravi's here and he can speak for what the staff did and why with respect to their report. The water superintendent isn't. I guess I would like to have a clear understanding whether or not the square footage issue applies or not. I gather, Ravi, it's the town staff's position that the water superintendent is correctly stating the regulation.
I believe so, yes.
I'm
The-
confused about
this-
the 5,000, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm confused about the 5,000 and 10,000. What number are we
So
working with?
the square footage does matter, and that's what matters here, and that's what was provided to the town, and that's what the approval was based upon. So this concept of it's irrespective of the size is not correct. The size mattered the entire way through the approval process, and it's indicated in every document provided by the applicant, by the staff, and in the DRB's notes, and in the approval process.
So is it 5,000 or 10,000? What number, what's the number?
It's, the threshold that triggers a stormwater review is 10,000 square feet or more.
Right, and what are we
This is-
talking about here?
This is less than that. This is
5,000.
Okay,
That's
so-
why all the documentation. there
I
was no-
understand, there was a clarifying statement on my part, so so now what, Ravi?
So what is the basis of what staff is saying, irregardless of square footage?
So that's from section 1900.4 regarding site plan.
Slowly read that,
Yes.
please.
Irrespective of the size of the area of disturbance, the amount of stormwater and other surface waters leaving the project site shall be minimized by the site design.
And my question is, to put it succinctly, does the language you just read, which I think I understand, only apply to projects subject to stormwater review?
No. It applies to all projects subject to site plan review.
So in that sense, the square footage makes no difference.
Yes.
And
Okay.
we've received site plan review approval for this project.
Right.
So now,
So I would be very hesitant as a board to make an approval for a project and then receive comments after the
Pull it
approval
back.
and make a change. That's setting a
Yeah,
very bad
That's what I'm
precedent.
struggling with right now. We knew, the town knew about this, staff knew about this, what the plans were, and this was not addressed months and months
Staff
ago.
didn't know about the catch basins at all.
Is it the,
which?
All the
basin?
catch basins.
Okay, can you, I already made my comment on catch basins, and I understand the natural flow of water.
I
Going-
don't though. I don't.
Okay, going for, well, what happens is, in a natural flow of water on a
No, what's a
site,
catch basin? In my
A
mind, I
catch
thought that
basin is
was
a hole in the
s-
ground with a grate on top.
Okay, and where's that water go?
It goes into the ground, it goes into a pipe, the pipe sends it over to the next catch basin, which then sends it to the main
Sometimes
catch
it just
basin.
goes into the
It
ground.
looks like, none of it goes in the ground, it goes into pipes and goes out.
All right, is it going to?
It's going to the catch basin on the bottom right-hand side.
I view that as that's how they're implementing their plan.
Right.
Okay.
So it comes down to an interpretation of what the B, irrespective of the size of the site of disturbance, comment, that it'll minimize the amount of, shall be minimized by the site design, the amount of stormwater. So
So I think
that comes under the heading of, we can be saying any water that is not kept on site and allowed to naturally dissipate adds to the stormwater problem, therefore we can't approve any projects?
No, it doesn't say that. It says that it.
Minimize.
Minimize.
Well, that
not-
becomes a
not-
question of how close to zero are we supposed to be?
But I think.
Minimize refers to square footage of impervious surface.
No, it only refers to the amount of water that's leaving the site.
Which is generated by impervious surfaces.
Yeah, or,
But,
Here's the, in my mind, we approved it. Now there's a stop work order on something we approved.
I second.
What do we
That's
do?
the problem.
That's what I think the
I
problem
concur.
is,
Well-
because we're not experts on impervious and stormwater, but we did approve something.
We did approve it.
well, clearly we approved it. I think I helped with the motion. But it sounds like in hindsight, there should have been, by staff and us, some review of the wastewater, the stormwater plans to see if it appeared to minimize the discharge. And for all I know, if we had that review, we would have concluded that they had minimized the flow.
Exactly.
And they would have been approved. I don't see how we can look back now
No.
and guess what we would have approved. But I do think that at least as Ravi has read the regulations, it's clear that without regard to square footage, you're supposed to, we, the board, and town staff are supposed to consider whether the stormwater design minimizes the output. I agree that it seems a little weird at this stage in the process to go back and say, do over, we forgot to do it. And I'm probably on balance think that the least bad answer is to let the project proceed. But I do have to say that whoever's fault it is, however it happened, we were supposed to assess something that wasn't assessed.
Wasn't brought to us, right.
So, I would concur.
I agree.
I agree.
So.
So we
now
said
what?
yes. The town decided to put a stop work order in against our yes. What's gonna happen now? How we get that, the board doesn't support the stop work order.
Do we have to make a motion that we don't support that?
I recommend that you do.
Wouldn't a more neutral way of addressing it be, as much as I enjoy throwing gas on the fire.
I know.
I won't this time. Wouldn't a more neutral way of saying it is the absent evidence that the present design fails to minimize stormwater runoff, that the stop order should be lifted. That's the sense of the board, because the only, if we had done things the right way, we might have still approved it.
I don't think this is the right place for that.
All right, so
For those types of discussions, for those types of policy discussions, I don't think this is the right.
we're going to have an offline session with your boss and probably some others within the town.
But I mean,
all
the
right, so-
practical consideration here is we're running up against winter. Like, what do
Well,
we?
that's why we have to have the meeting with
Oh,
the
okay.
town management. Understand? So before us is a lighting plan.
Correct. We should talk about the lighting plan tonight, too.
All right. So,
Okay.
So I
I
don't,
like the way you phrase it, John. You should be an attorney.
all right, let's go through the lighting plan.
So we had submitted a previous lighting plan, and I believe Mr. Precourt had worked with the staff on this, and there was fewer light poles proposed before and lights proposed, but the total the maximum foot candle value was 1.0 foot candles, and the maximum allowed in town is 0.8 foot candles. The difference between those two is very challenging to see by the eye, but what that translated to was us putting more lights in, as a matter of fact. So I don't know if that was an unintended consequence of that process, but we have now more lights because we needed to get the lights spread out farther so that we could lower the maximum foot candle value. So generally speaking, the goal here was to light up the sidewalks and the parking areas and the drive areas. You can see we've got light poles that are labeled here in these black hatches with a numerical value. There's one there, there's one here. Generally, it's around the outside of the areas where people be walking and driving, and there's also one shown here, which is out in the front by the entrance. And this lighting plan meets all of the design criteria that is required by the town, and those values are provided up here in the lighting statistics. And we also provide cut sheet here to show you what the light looks like, what the foot candle values are, and what the wattage is, what the color of the light will be, and things of that nature.
I have a question for staff. What defines high impact lighting?
High impact lighting is based on the number of lights that are proposed for a project. That would be, let's see, want to say 2 for a non-residential. Yeah, the basis of this application was it was for 2 for non-residential, yes.
Okay. So anything above that?
Yep,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Anything that's 2 and generates more than 1750 lumens.
Okay, got it. Okay. So is the town good with the lighting plan?
Staff has no concerns about the lighting plan.
Okay. All right. I'd like to open up for public comment. Seeing,
I have a question.
oh, can you come up to the microphone?
Yes, absolutely.
Introduce yourself, and I'm going to swear you in.
Hi. I'm Jessie.
Jesse.
That's all you're gonna get?
Jesse, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Yes,
truth
I
under
do.
pains of penalties of perjury?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm concerned about this light, excuse me. Right here. And I wanna know, what the plan is for when it's gonna be on, when it's gonna be turned off, and how it's gonna affect my life.
How is your life affected? Do you live across the street?
Yes.
Can you show us where you live?
It's not on there.
Okay. Do you live down, up, or just proximity with?
Like, directly across.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the lighting style and lighting
Yes.
the hours?
So the lighting is a back shielded downward facing light. The foot candle values are provided here when the light is on. And as you can see, well before it reaches the property line for the adjacent lots, it's at a level of 0. So there will be no light shined on those adjacent properties.
That's good to hear.
Now, in terms of the schedule, to be honest with you, I don't know what the schedule is for those. I would assume they would be on. at night when it's dark out, and I would like to think they wouldn't be on all the time because it's a bad use of energy. They'd be used when they're planning on having folks come to the church.
Okay.
That also sounds like a really good plan.
But again, I don't have the schedule for the lighting. That's my intuition here.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the public with regards to the lighting plan?
I also want to know, since there are very few church events going on at night, you know, I guess my instinct is, does the light need to be on at all if there is no event? That's my concern, that it would just sort of be on all the time, protecting no one.
Hard to say.
It's again, I don't know what the full intentions are for the lighting. It's my guess that due to the cost of running power, that they would not just leave them on all the time, because it just doesn't make sense economically to do that, and that they would really use those lights when there's going to be an event at the church at night.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions from the public with regards to the lighting plan? Any questions from the board with regards to the lighting plan? All right. Do we have a-
Process observation before we get into motions. It seems to me that if we treat the application before us as being literally the application before us, meaning limited to the lights, that we can dispose of that through the normal motion process, and that issues raised with respect to the stormwater drainage, which are not before us in an application and which have previously been decided by the board under the circumstances we're now all familiar with, it seems to me can be handled through separate conversations between the DRB and staff and town government.
Correct. That's the way I'd like to play it.
Okay.
It's unfortunate we had to suck up so much time talking about stormwater, but thank you for educating us.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have a motion on the lighting?
Do we have draft language on the lighting only? No, we don't.
I have a question. Does historic preservation have to see this before it can get approved?
The lighting?
Yes.
Yes, and they have reviewed this during the September 26, 2019 meeting and recommended approval.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
we're done. Good.
Okay, could someone,
I'll make a freelancing this, so everybody help me out. And I'm sorry, there isn't a staff report language I can cite you to. I'll make a motion that the record be closed, and that the staff be directed to approve the electrical plan as submitted, with the understanding that any issues outside the scope of the application will be dealt with by the DRB chair and town staff separately.
I'll second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So on the record, as chair, I'd like to schedule a meeting with your boss and the town manager to talk about this application, or not this application, the previous application that caused so much confusion. Okay? All right, we need to get Mr. Samet back in here.
Oh. Shall we get,
I'll go get Mark.
what, you want to bail?
I'll be right back.
He's fishing for cookies.
You'll never come back.
We know we have cookies. Doesn't it feel like that?
Yep.
The air conditioning's on?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's probably just the blower, not the refrigerant.
Oh. That's reassuring.
Our taxpayer dollars.
You can nullify these places if I found it.
You found that one?
Yeah, that's,
3, 4, 5, 6.
How
So
far
we've
do you
got,
go?
I don't
with or
know.
without Mark, we've got a quorum and a 4 votes, so we could proceed if we had to, right, Robbie?
Yeah, you technically could.
Well, technically, we should.
Hopefully, Marcus, like, if you went further than just the room next door.
Probably sleeping in his truck.
I lost this one.
He's back.
Did you have a good nap?
You read the whole paper? All right, next up is application SP 19-09, application by Rebecca Schaeffer and Michael Graham for site plan review to modify a previously approved landscaping plan. Property is located at 46 Lily Creek Lanes, located in the residential district and the Stormwater Overlay District.
So this application is based off of a permit condition for the approval of the subdivision back in 2013, which states that the developer or homeowners association shall seek review and approval from the Development Review Board prior to making any substantial alterations to the screening landscaping, such as the removal or replacement of significant plantings to ensure that adequate screening is maintained. The applicant seeking to remove 3 white spruce trees and modify the required 20-foot screening buffer along the western boundary line of their property. And staff had no major concerns to note about this application. And at this point, staff will defer to the applicant.
Okay, is anyone here to speak to this application? Hello, could you introduce yourself? I will swear you in.
I'm Rebecca Schaeffer.
Hi, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Okay. Go for it.
Hello. Do I take this off? This is like very intimidating. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, hi, I'm a homeowner of Lot 7. There are 8 different properties in this subdivision. At the time that the subdivision was approved, there was a negotiation between the external neighbors and the developer to develop this landscaping plan. I am not an original owner. I was a second owner. So with this landscaping plan, so basically, so you can see, so this is our lot here. So basically, all of this that was drawn in on the landscaping plan doesn't actually exist, or didn't exist. So this like 20-foot barrier was supposed to be natural screening, and it wasn't actually present. There is additional screening, like kind of continuing down this road for the neighboring property, and then continuing down, it's a private road bordering the outside of the property. There were these 3 spruce trees that were on this plan that were not planted originally and were planted by the developer in 2015, at which point he planted kind of all of these street trees, and then these 3 here. Additionally, he planted them not here, but kind of in the middle of the property, in the middle of the yard. So basically, there's kind of like those 3 trees and then not additional screening. So to improve the property, et cetera, we have contracted with a landscaping design company to make a better landscaping plan. We actually have approval from our homeowners association, as well as we've discussed with the affected neighbors on this private property behind our property. So overall, we're actually going to be adding screening all the way along here, which does not currently exist. We're additionally adding additional screening on this line and on this line. What we're basically proposing to do tonight, and what we need approval for per the town, is to move 2 of these trees to a location over here. And so so you'll see the proposed, do you guys have the proposed landscape plan?
It's the tab that says.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then can we spin it? Let's see. See view. Rotate view. Oh.
Put some lights in.
I'm not putting in any lights. Now we made it. I'm going to go the wrong way. Sorry, I'll keep going. and then I'm gonna make it bigger. So, okay, so basically we're adding like a whole lot of landscaping screening. So this actually maybe I should leave it in the other orientation because that would be like where, maybe I'll do that, sorry. Because then it would be parallel to what you are seeing, and that needs to go this way. Okay, so this is the plot of land. So you can see it's kind of like a parallelogram. We are basically proposing all in the backyard where there was supposed to be like a natural screening and there's not anything existing. We are going to be putting screening here, adding a whole bunch of screening here, adding more screening here. Additionally, we're putting a cedar fence that has already been approved by the town, as well as we're putting like a little shed here, which was also approved by the town. So what we have a separate application for basically moving the two big spruce trees. Talking with the neighbors behind here, one of their big concerns is, I think that they were one of the original people who wanted the screening and who wanted approval if there was going to be a change. So we've talked with her, and so one of her concerns was that this landscaping plan has a gate right here. Her driveway is like directly across here, so if there's a gate here, there's not going to be plantings and screenings that would eventually grow up. So what we have discussed with her as a compromise would be to move one of those 3 spruce trees to right here, and then to move the location of this gate to over here. So we are going to be, in summary, we would be transplanting, kind of leaving the original design was supposed to have 3 spruce trees there. We would like kind of leave one here. We would move 2 of them up here, here, and I think it's here and here. And then additionally, we're putting 3 river birches, a maple, a hydrangea bush, a 9-bark bush, 5 arborvitaes, and then we're going to actually add an additional white spruce here too. So we're trying to improve the screening. And it's been accepted by our neighbors.
All right. Any questions from the board?
None.
Any questions from the public? Dare I bring this up? The fence.
He said it was good.
Good. All right.
Yeah,
Mo-
the applicant came in for an application for a fence and the shed last month, and that was approved.
Good. Okay.
And per this neighbor, who's the one who mostly affects, it will again improve it because it's going to block more of our house from her view. So.
All right. We have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, and I move the staff to direct staff to prepare a decision indicating approval of site plan review application SP 19-09 to amend the previously approved landscape plan with the following conditions. 1, zoning permit is required. 2, written confirmation from planning and zoning that the landscaping has been installed. And that's it.
I'm going to suggest respectfully that.
1 and 2.
Be amended to include finalizing the record and closing the hearing.
Where does it say that?
Bottom of the prior page.
Oh, well, that's not nice, but thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God,
That's the,
I need a lawyer.
what I call the world's second oldest.
All right. Next up, application SP 19-10, application by Catamount Shelburne LLC for site plan review to install secondary directory sign, Property is located at 4066 Shelburne Road, located in the mixed-use district and the Stormwater Overlay District. All right, Ravi, get us started, please.
Okay, so what we're about to pull up is plan. So the applicant is requesting the addition of a secondary directory sign facing the south one. So it's this one as identified. DRB review and approval is required for this under section 1975, 1970.9. In the case of a large center with more than one entrance, additional directories may be allowed in the discretion of the Development Review Board upon proper application. And the proper application in this case is site plan review, as identified under section 1900, subpoint B. Based on the size of the sign, location of the sign, staff has no concerns about that, and at this point, staff will defer to the applicant.
Is someone here to speak to this?
I am
State your name for the record.
Matt Boudreau.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. All right. What else could you tell us?
As far as I know, the sign's been actually existing for many years before I even started to work for Redstone. Only as we went to get a permit to replace it with a newer, better-looking sign was I made aware that it had not been approved through the DRB. So we are going through that process now.
I'm just trying to get a grip on where the property is.
It's Archie.
It's old Shelburne.
Thank you.
Shelburne Commons, so.
Go to the food source.
Okay, got
So
it.
which one is the primary and which one are the which one are you replacing? I can't.
So we're replacing all three, but two are existing, the large road sign and
Yep.
then the northern directory.
Okay.
Was existing on the site plan. The tenants directory south is the one that we are
Okay.
seeking approval on.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Any questions from the public? All right, someone make a motion?
Make a motion to finalize the record and close the hearing.
Go for it.
For application SB 1910, and I further move to direct the staff to prepare a decision indicating approval of the site plan review, application SB 1910 by Catamount Shelburne LLC to install a secondary directory sign with the following conditions. Sign permit is required prior to the installation of the second directory sign pursuant to town zoning bylaws, section 2010.1. That's all the staff recommended language. That's the motion.
Second. Do you have a second?
Second.
Who's gonna claim it?
I will.
All right, you got that? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, next up, CU 19-10, application by Civil Engineering Associates on the behalf of James and Andrea Crook for conditional use and review to build a lakeshore erosion control structure. Property is located at 282 Clearwater Road, is located in the residential district, the Lakeshore Overlay District, Stormwater and Floodplain, and Watercourse Overlay District.
So this is a proposal for a lakeshore erosion control structure as shown on the plans. To clarify some things about the plans, just the erosion control structure is proposed. The staff is reviewing an application currently for the removal and work with the non-conforming structure as shown in these proposed condition plans. But what you're approving is only for the lakeshore erosion control structure.
Okay.
So, with this lakeshore erosion control structure, staff finds the proposal in compliance with section 1750.3, and staff has no concerns to note. At this point, staff will defer to the applicant.
Okay, someone here to speak to this application?
I'll start.
All right. State your name for record, Jack.
I'm Jack Milbank from Civil Engineering Associates.
Do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Jim and Andrea Crook are, own a property immediately north of 282 Clearwater. They own 264. They recently purchased 282, and the property is in a bad state of, it's kind of been let go. As part of the project, and I felt it's important to show the proposed conditions. We want to be transparent about this, but their goal is to actually, it was a one-bedroom camp on this lot, and there had been prior efforts to stabilize the shorefront. The armoring was too small a material, and not sufficient to stand the forces of high water and ice and wave action. And it was material that's also not desirable color-wise. It's white Shelburne limestone. It's kind of, and what's happened is that it's been pulled in lakeward. And the goal of this stabilization is twofold. One, there is a pump house at the north end of the wall. It's got a concrete foundation that goes from beach to about, I don't know the elevation without my glasses are looking, but around 104. And so not typical to one of our full-length shoreline boulder walls. We're going to design a structural section to match the wall that's immediately north of the property. That wall was done in 2007, and it was done with an excavation and fill permit. It was a wall that was designed before the DRB had to approve. It's a very nice wall. It's concrete. It's got a concrete core. It's got a red stone veneer on it with a very nicely done batter at the toe. When I mean batter, there's a taper to help break wave action, and then it gets vertical. And so we're proposing that the the northerly 20 feet of that, we would tie into that wall and protect the foundation of the pump house and then return along the south face. At that point, we would treat the remaining 80 feet of stabilization with the large boulder wall that we commonly come to you seeking permission for. It's the same section. What it will do in this case is it allow a little more verticality. We are actually pulling upland. We're pulling the toe in upland, but it's going to allow us some opportunity to do some nice planting on the 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 slope that we're proposing from top of wall to the top of bank to create a buffer, a vegetative buffer, just for sort of water quality. The other component of the wall is that, of this project, is that along the southerly property from Clearwater Drive all the way to the lake, there is a swale or a ditch, and it's in bad shape. It's got a shallow slope. The first section. I got to make one comment. There is a town of Shelburne pump station on this property line. It's an injector station. They run up and down the lake on Shelburne Bay on the east side, and it's so that these properties could be hooked into town sewer. All the properties, all along the east shore of the bay, and but grade is gentle from the road to the pump station. Then it picks up slope, and from the pump station to the stabilization project, we're going to improve the ditch as well. We're going to put stone line check dams in. We're going to try to make it a water quality swale, get it revegetated, and we're going to have a plunge pool as part of the wall, a place where the water actually falls and slows the velocity down to minimize erosion as it heads to the lake. We recognize that we'll need a vegetative cutting permit for this. We've done a full inventory on the trees. We know that we have 30 square feet of basal area in the 100 feet from 102, and for this project, we're proposing the removal of 2 basswood trees. It'll be a separate permit that I'm sure will be a condition of the approval, which total about 1 square foot of basal area. So it'll be very minimal cutting. And then we're going to be revegetating. And I'm going to ask you if you have any questions about the...
Currently, it shows steps. New plan does not show steps. No steps?
There are no steps on this based on the clients. Ravi's been patient. We've had to make a few changes and adjustments, and we appreciate his patience. But we've put this whole thing in front of you so you could see we have a cohesive plan, not only with the stabilization, but in working with site plan and conditional use for proposed, which aren't really part of this, but we want to make sure it makes sense.
And you had mentioned that you're going to try to replicate as best as possible the stone coloring with the.
The redstone, yes, absolutely. We have, color choice is, the wall that's currently, it's in one of the photographs, it's a redstone, and similar to the Shelburne Farms redstone. I believe this, based on my information from, is that wall was built out of a foundation of a barn, and I'm not sure where the barn came from, but that stone will be tried to be a mirror of that, and the boulder wall will be, it's going to be Whitcomb stone, or if we can find redstone, the redstone, or the rice lumber, the reddish, that color.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the record. Close the hearing, finalize the record for this application CU 19-10. And I would direct staff to prepare a decision indicating approval with the two conditions as written in the staff report.
Seconded.
Who's going to claim the second? Mike's got it.
Mike's got it.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Mike's got it. Okay. Thank you.
Very much.
All right. What else we have? Presentation by Shelburne House Subcommittee. All right. So we are through the applications.
Yeah, you guys don't have to make any decisions.
I don't have to swear you in either.
No, I was wondering about that. So I had to verify when we were created, without having to get caught in line.
You're good.
Hi there, I'm Pam Brangan, and I am on the Housing Subcommittee. We were created by the Planning Commission probably about 3 years ago. Since I'm not being sworn in, I'm not going to swear to that it was 3 years. And so tonight I just wanted to kind of introduce our committee to you guys, show you a little bit of what we've accomplished in the 3 years, and talk about our next steps. So this will be brief. Thank you. No problem. So this first slide talks about our charge, and this was actually recently revised when we were first created by the Planning Commission. It was more the final sentence, which is to collect, collate, and analyze data on housing stock in Shelburne and to make housing information available to town committees. We have done that, and so then we started moving on to other things. So we amended our charge to provide to advise and provide information to any town committees that are interested in matters relating to housing. We have been doing some research on ways to encourage infill through various zoning changes or other statutory ways to reach some housing goals. And we've been using the housing section of the town plan to help guide us. There's a whole page of recommended actions on housing that we've been using as our guide. So as I mentioned, our first year, probably year and a half, we spent really collecting and analyzing and collating a whole bunch of information on housing. This slide just kind of identifies all the different things that we tried to gather information on. And what we did was we created a housing booklet that you can access from the town website under the Housing Subcommittee. Hopefully this will open. Oops, where'd it go? it's a PDF that provides, again, a whole bunch of information about how the state of housing in Shelburne right now, basically talking about the population, the demographics, and looks at where our housing is in relation to our growth areas, and also breaks it down by looking at where our housing, our multifamily and single-family housing is, looks at it in relation to our zoning districts. So it's not very long. I recommend checking it out. And let's see if I can get back to my presentation. And then I'm not going to go back into the slide because I got another. We also created a housing map of Shelburne that you can access. Let's see. Hopefully. Again, through our the housing subcommittee website, or from that housing booklet on the webpage. And this map that hopefully will come up. I have to admit I had a lot of mapping issues today at work, so I was really hoping this would work tonight. Basically, we incorporated a bunch of data onto this map that is interactive. And so we break down the dwelling units by when they were built. So, and we have a time series, a time slider, so you can watch the housing sort of develop over time in the town. And you can see, by certain years, how many housing units were built. We included the growth area, so you can see when I turn this off, the highlights or the outlines of the growth areas go away. So this is all growth area 2. And when you zoom in to the village area, that's growth area 1, and then everything else around is the rural area. We have parcel data on there. We have zoning data. And so you can zoom in on a parcel if you wanted to find out which zoning district it was in. I'm just going to randomly pick one. When you click on it, it'll tell you the zoning district. So that's a residential. It'll tell you the parcel ID. And it also hits the ones nearby.
Hang on. You know what would be awesome is if for every single one of these properties, if there's been applications submitted against them.
So like you could see where all the applications have
Yeah.
been?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a permit map on the town's website that hasn't been updated for about a year, but
Could we add that into this?
Robbie's just smiling.
We also included where paths exist and where the paths committee has proposed paths.
Oh, that's important. Let's see that, please.
You want me to zoom out or so you can?
Yeah, where are they proposing paths? That
So anything that's like this blue jagged line, that is a proposed shared use path.
okay.
Anything that's the red jagged line, and that's future sidewalk, so we'd have to zoom in probably to some of the areas, and I'm not,
Oh. Okay.
let's see, I can probably turn off. Yeah, I think so, let's see. So this would be, so this is the Ty Hall, well, not that, but, so this is the Ty Hall path and it's existing. This on Bay Road is a planned shared use path.
Okay.
And this came from the Paths Committee probably about 2 years ago. I don't know if they've updated the information since then, but it's relatively current. And then the other piece that we also included was the conserved land, which, so the lighter, ooh, it looks really green on there. The bright green is conserved by either a conserved land or conservation easement, and then the darker green is funds where the town's open space fund was used, maybe a portion or some of that money was used to help conserve that property.
And this is available on the town's website?
It is.
Okay.
It is. And so, as you can see, you can turn data on and off. Oh, another thing you can do is you can see the 2018 imagery. So you can zoom right in and see those salt sheds that everyone loves so much. Right there. So big. Sorry. Couldn't resist.
What about all the Boy Scout structures and buildings within
All the
town?
bridges? Yeah.
And buildings and lean-tos and...
That's right. So yes, both the housing booklet and the housing map are accessible on the website. If you go to the housing subcommittee's page, you should be able to get to either of those. I'm not sure about the map. I know you can get it from the housing booklet, and the map might be just on the maps page. Is that? Okay.
I'm trying to think what is very interesting, which is really good data.
Yeah,
I'm
and
trying to think like first order data for us in helping make decisions. What would be important and critical?
yeah, and that was going to be one of my final questions to you guys. What can we do to help out you guys? Is there a way to enhance that map viewer with more information?
Yeah, so now that I know this, like the sidewalk plans are really important because if there's a premeditated, here's where we're going to be putting a sidewalk, and there's applications that coming in, we could.
That'd be really good to know, right? Yeah.
That's important.
Yep. So I should make sure with the paths committee that I still have the most current
Yes, please.
information.
Please.
How about you mentioned infill in the beginning. Do we know where those areas are?
Infill?
Robbie will tell us, right?
When you say infill, what do
Well,
you
that they're, where you really want to put housing, where the,
Be growth area one.
I actually didn't know what infill meant. It's where you want housing to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, not you personally, we.
So
Yeah.
the gaps in where areas already growing, so I'd say like Garden Side, it seems like a prime example of infill because it's a large, like 8-acre plot, and all around it are single-family subdivisions and multifamily subdivisions.
Right.
So that's what we would consider like a prime infill area, is a gap in the growth, and that should be a target for potential development.
Sure.
okay.
So this may be out of scope for the housing committee, or subcommittee, I guess you're right. But like as we infill, if that was a verb, there's gonna be a natural buildup of people walking and cars going and all of that. So, like that, what about that?
Sidewalks and paths.
Yeah.
No, sidewalks and cars.
Yeah.
Infill
Right.
brings traffic.
Sure,
It's the town's
sure.
plan to put everybody in together, so to speak.
Right.
I'm probably not saying it the right way.
In the growth areas.
Yeah, in the
Like,
growth
well,
areas.
if our town is to grow, we want it to grow in certain areas, right?
Correct.
And yeah, the village is one of those areas, and there are cars and there are sidewalks. I don't know, I don't necessarily see that as a problem, but it is something to be cognizant of. And, I do know that there is a lot of discussion about the traffic calming efforts on Falls Road, trying to get people to slow down.
Or stop.
I don't think that's going to change no matter how much, it doesn't matter if we put 5 more houses, there's still going to be, issue is already there. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to get worse, but maybe it would. I don't know.
I don't know. It just seems like the more we put people together, the more cars there'll be. The more cars there'll be, the more traffic there'll be. The more
We get more
traffic
people
will-
on the bus.
Yeah,
We put
right.
the infill along where there's bus line, and maybe more people use the bus.
Yeah.
But I just have a couple more slides
Tried
real
that in
quick.
LA too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you know, when we look at development, sometimes we have to hit on that kind of soft requirement of like, does this fit within the character of what's nearby?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not aware of any information out there that helps with that, other than getting in the car and going out and seeing what it looks like.
Yeah.
So if there was a map that would somehow be able to characterize the properties, you know,
I
single
think the best thing
family,
I could
multifamily.
do is, well, that the housing point data does identify, you can, I think you can click on it and it will, if you click on the point, it'll tell you whether it's a single family or a duplex.
Yeah.
And when it was built, right?
When it was built.
Okay.
And then you have the imagery, that's from 2018, so it's already a year and a half old because it was flown in the spring of 2018. So any development that has happened since then wouldn't be showing on there, but you would have everything. You could zoom down, you know, if you're looking at it on your own computer at home, you can like zoom way in and you can see what the houses look like. I mean, it's not going to be three-dimensional, but it can give you a general, you know, you can see where the trees are and, you know, how big the driveway is and, you know, those kinds of things. So that map might be a good tool for that. So then I just wanted to touch on quickly, another thing, like, once we finished that housing booklet, then we started to look at what else we could do, and we were looking at the town plan and trying to help meet some of those, some of the goals and recommended actions. And so we proposed a change to the zoning regulations that was passed this past summer that applies to the accessory dwelling units. Prior to July 31st, I think is the date, you needed to get, it was conditional use, conditional improvement, you needed to get a permit for an accessory dwelling unit that was more than one bedroom. So one bedroom was permitted. Now our zoning regulations say that you could have a 1 or 2 bedroom accessory apartment that is not more than 50% of the total habitable floor area of the original dwelling unit. So that's a change to our zoning regs that happened this summer, and that was something that the Housing Committee proposed and worked with through the Planning Commission, and so we wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. And if you have any questions on that. And then we feel like the town needs to understand a little bit more about the accessory dwelling unit change. And so our thoughts as a committee are to try and get the word out a little bit. So we're working on an article that will be going in the Shelburne News. We'll probably put something in Front Porch Forum after that. And then we're contemplating maybe trying to hold a workshop or create like a how-to, like, you know, if you wanted to do an accessory dwelling unit, these are the things you do. Go to your planning and zoning office, you know, and kind of like list out all the things they need to do, but make it somehow accessible and promote it to the town.
Would that not come before us then?
The 2-bedroom?
I mean,
Accessory dwelling units?
yeah.
As long as they are conforming to the zoning regulations
If
for
it's
that
permitted,
district.
we wouldn't see it, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we had that, we had one that came in
Had one.
this spring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
so
was
the-
prior to.
Yeah, so
Prior
the,
to the rule
Okay.
coming out.
the-
All right.
yeah, the zoning changes occurred on July 30th.
Okay, just,
Yeah, me too.
Good.
And then, you know, we're just looking, we wanted to sort of, you guys are the first committee that we've come before, besides the Planning Commission, but just to sort of see if there's things that we could do to help you out. And I've already got a couple notes, but if you think of other things.
Yeah, there's nothing in my mind. In many cases, we get to make the determination if a structure is going to be a duplex or a triplex.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I view the feeling of a duplex much different than that of a triplex. So you get that unit in the middle, and that homeowner like an apartment owner. It doesn't have like, they don't have the sense of the yard and, you know, maybe not so much because they're sandwiched in between. So I often struggle with that when I'm trying to match it up to the character of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, if there's
But
multiple apartments around, then okay, then a triplex would fit in.
But
Right.
It's also leans a little towards the affordability of a lot.
Right.
So
I
it's-
know,
it's-
exactly.
Right. And that's, you know, that's the big thing. Like, you know, part of our housing issue in Vermont is the affordability is, it's so hard, you know, it's so hard for folks to be able to afford to live here.
Right, so that's the kind of balancing act, at least in my mind, that I go through
Okay.
when that decision's up. And, you know, to be better educated on that would help if I
Okay.
understood the variables.
All right. There's also, the AARP has a website, and it's more geared towards accessory dwelling units, but they've got some really great information on their website, and I'd be happy to share the link to you guys if you're interested to just kind of help with some of that design kind of question.
Good.
That's kind of all I had.
Which
Thank
goes,
you.
and have you developed any thoughts on the affordability issue yet?
Well, the accessory dwelling unit is our first sort of step into that. We've also explored the idea of trying to, have some sort of a affordable housing trust fund, but we recognize that that's going to be really a tough sell. I mean, we already have the open space fund. There's so many competing things. We're not really sure that would be a good avenue. So we've actually sort of taken a different approach in that we've had meetings with Champlain Housing Trust and potential developers for places in town and trying to find how we can support them, what we can do. And we're not really there yet, but we're still looking. It's definitely high on our priority is to try and find ways to get more affordable housing.
Another question for, what is the housing committee's definition of affordability?
I don't know as if I have it right in my head. I would say we put something in the housing booklet on what we would think, but I mean, it's,
What's affordable housing?
there is a state definition, but
Based on median income
yeah.
in the municipality.
Is it considered subsidized housing, or is it, what?
Well, yeah, I
How's
mean,
it
there's
play
so
out?
many different levels of it.
And
And
I'm assuming this applies to not just like subsidized, but it's also workforce housing.
workforce, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
teachers, firefighters.
Yeah.
as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, that's the accessory. We used that as
Yeah.
one of our
Sure.
plugs for the accessory dwelling
Right.
unit idea,
Workforce affordable.
Affordable housing. In town, and that brings its own, I mean, it's a mixed bag of how do you build good affordable housing that
It's very
is
difficult.
durable and meets people's needs and doesn't drive the rest of the town crazy,
Yeah.
because they don't want it in their backyard. Yep.
Yeah. And we have spent time, there's, through the Regional Planning Commission, we've had housing committee meetings where all of the housing committees from the various towns in the county have gotten together, and we've had presentations on affordable housing, on inclusionary zoning. At the end of this month, we're meeting and talking about accessory dwelling units. So we're really trying to be as well educated as we can and bring as much information that we can learn to the town to help us try and solve these problems. So,
I did, quick question on accessory dwelling units, can they be put up and be rented out?
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Short term, long term, yes.
The,
As far as I know,
the
yes.
owner needs to live in one of the two dwellings. They cannot be an absentee owner. So if you were to
In the
put it,
primary, but the secondary, the accessory?
they could live in the secondary,
Or the
so.
primary, doesn't matter.
Yeah, as long as the owner is living in one of the two places. So like if you had a large home and you decided you wanted to downsize, but you didn't really want to leave, you could build a smaller, 2-bedroom place for yourself or 1-bedroom and rent out your house.
And the square footage is a maximum of 50% of the original structure.
Up to 1,500 square feet.
Oh,
Sorry, I have to
1,500.
keep looking back.
Okay, looking back at the expert. Okay.
At the expert. So, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
A lot of work went into that.
Yes, it's been a.
Good job.
Thanks.
All right.
There's one last item on the revised agenda.
Yes, there is. Other business.
So Sterling Land Company has requested an extension to file their preliminary plan application for SCB 1905, which is the Gardenside project. So
Speaking of garden site.
yeah, and so this is this is pretty much, I view it as a consent item, as long as they are in, there's good cause to give them an extension, then you can give them an extension. They're still scoping out the details. They're still very much committed to this project and trying to work towards that same idea that was presented to you back in May?
Yeah, like my first meeting.
May, yes.
It
Yep.
was raining, yeah, May.
That was one of my first meetings. What did they mean by archaeology?
Archaeology?
Yeah, they mentioned that.
They have to do an investigation.
They have to get somebody in there to dig,
Yeah.
Do
What
an
are they looking for?
evaluation.
whatever.
Yeah. Signs of, arrowheads.
Yeah.
Signs of
No,
Native
I was just
Americans.
curious, because that
Yeah.
was where
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Dinosaurs.
stood, when
Yeah.
I read it, it stood out to me. I was like,
Archaeology can be anywhere.
well, no, I know what archaeology is, but I meant,
Yeah, I know what you
why
mean.
why did we ask them to do that?
Well, the state does
We,
it.
The state
that
does
was
it.
the state.
Oh,
State.
No, we don't,
thank you.
yeah, we don't care much.
I was just curious when I
Yeah,
read it.
no,
I was like, that's interesting.
And there's only two, are there three now that are approved? I know there's UVM.
UVM, University of Maine, and there's one in Connecticut.
All right.
Approved to do the digging or?
Yep.
They come in and do an evaluation for you.
And
The
you get on the list when you get on the list.
Yeah, the reason it caught my eye was thinking that if that might take them some time.
Yes.
If they're
Yeah,
not
that's-
available, it can, it's costly.
Yep.
And they have to look at the maps first. There's, archaeologically sensitive zones, and then they do like a couple stages of
Yeah.
investigation.
And you hope they find nothing.
Yep.
Because if they find something,
So how long do we extend them?
6 months.
All right, do we vote on it?
Yes.
All right,
I'd make a motion.
Extend 6 months.
second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Any other business?
Nope.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Funny business.
Second.
Nothing
All
to
in
sign,
favor?
nothing to sign?
Aye.
We're off the record?
We're off.